This lesson is for those of you who want to use different words in place of the ones you have been using all the time. In doing so, you will be using synonyms. Today's lesson will help you to increase your vocabulary and use many different words instead of pandemic, asymptomatic, quarantine, pain, and recovery. Yes, there are other words that you can use in their place. Keep watching the video and I will give you the meaning of each word, several synonyms for each one, and examples of how you can use the words in sentences. At the end of the lesson, you can take a short quiz to see if you have mastered the use of these words. How about that? And if you enjoy the lesson and learn from it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel, because then you will get notified every time I post new content, which is every single day. I'm Milane from English Made Easy. This channel is dedicated to creating easy and interesting lessons so that you can improve your English in an enjoyable way. Now let's learn some synonyms. Are you ready to begin? Let's begin with the meaning of the word synonyms. So what are synonyms? Synonyms are words or phrases that mean the same as other words or phrases. They are words or phrases that mean the same as other words or phrases. Why do we need to use synonyms? Why are they so important? They make our language more interesting and expressive. We can avoid using the same old boring words or phrases. Synonyms will help to create a better image in the mind of the reader or listener. So if you want to do all this, then you should be using synonyms. Here are some very useful synonyms, words that we have been using a lot recently, synonyms for those words. The first word is quarantine. And what does quarantine mean? Quarantine means isolating people or animals to prevent the spread of an infection. So what other words could we use instead of the word quarantine? Isolation, separation, exclusion, distance, seclusion, segregation. And here are some examples to show you how to use the word quarantine in sentences. They were quarantined for a month. That is the verb form of the word quarantine. And in the second case, they were kept in quarantine for a month. In that case, it is a noun. Now, instead of using the word quarantine all the time, we can use the synonyms that you can see in different colors on your screen. For example, instead of saying they were quarantined for a month, we could say they were isolated for a month. They were separated for a month. They were segregated for a month. Instead of saying they were kept in quarantine for a month, we could say they were kept in isolation for a month, or they were kept in seclusion for a month. You get what I'm saying? You can use the words, but it depends on the sentence, because different words can be used in different ways depending on the usage, depending on the sentence that you have in front of you, the sentence that you are making. So some words, for example, quarantine, can be used as a verb and a noun, but not as an adjective. So we have to pay attention to that fact as well when we substitute the word for other words. Okay, let's go to the next word, which is pain, a very common word that we all use. Ouch, I'm in pain. What does pain mean? It is an unpleasant sensation caused by illness or injury. Agony could be used instead of pain. Suffering, torment, anguish, distress, misery. See the number of words, and these are not all. If you go through the dictionary, you will find a whole lot of words that you can use instead of the word pain. Here are examples to show you how the word pain is used in sentences. The word pain can be used in noun form and in verb form, like this. He was in great pain even after he was discharged from hospital. Or in verb form, it pains me to watch him suffer. I can substitute the word pain for any of the other words that you can see in front of you. For example, instead of saying he was in great pain even after he was discharged from hospital, I could say he was in agony even after he was discharged from hospital. Instead of saying it pains me to watch him suffer, I could say it torments me to watch him suffer. Let's go to the next word. Asymptomatic. Again, it's a word that we have been hearing a lot and using a lot recently. What does it mean? Showing no symptoms. And what other words could we use instead of asymptomatic? Unfortunately, there aren't many of them, but yes, there are a few. One is symptomless, non specific, or well. And here's an example for you. He probably got the infection from the asymptomatic mother. And here, asymptomatic has been used as an adjective. Asymptomatic. So instead of using the word asymptomatic, I could say he probably got the infection from the symptomless mother. The next word, recovery. Everyone's familiar with the word recovery. What exactly does it mean? Return to a normal state of health, right? What other words could we use instead of the word recovery? Recuperation, improvement, healing. They were thrilled to see his recovery, and it is used in noun form over here. So instead of saying they were thrilled to see his recovery, we could say they were thrilled to see his improvement, right? Pandemic. All of us are using the word pandemic these days. What exactly does it mean? A disease that has spread over a large region. And if I'm tired of using the word pandemic, then what other words can I use? Epidemic, contagion, infection, affliction, disease. And here are examples for you. The whole country was disturbed by a deadly pandemic, and in this case, the word pandemic is used as a noun. It could also be used as an adjective, as you see in the second case. There might be another pandemic wave, like that. And yes, I can substitute the word pandemic for any of the other words that you can see in front of you. For example, the whole country was disturbed by a deadly pandemic. I could say the whole country was disturbed by a deadly contagion or epidemic or affliction. And there might be another pandemic wave. I could say there might be another infectious wave. And now it's time for the quiz. Are you ready? Let's see how many of the words you remember. Replace the word in bold with a synonym for it. So here's your first sentence. He was in a lot of distress after his accident. The word distress is in bold type. What other word could you use instead of distress? The second one. He tested positive for the disease even though he was symptomless. Think of other words that you could use instead of the word symptomless. The third one, we all want the contagion to end quickly. So, what other word could I use instead of the word contagion? Think. The fourth one, his recuperation was amazing. Think of some words that we could use instead of recuperation. And the isolation of the animals did not help much. We need other words for isolation: distress, symptomless, contagion, recuperation, isolation. Let's see how many you could think of. So let's go to the first sentence again. What words did you think of? These are my answers: suffering, anguish, pain. He was in a lot of suffering after his accident. He was in a lot of anguish after his accident. He was in a lot of pain after his accident. He tested positive for the disease even though he was symptomless. So, what did you think of? Asymptomatic or well? He tested positive for the disease even though he was asymptomatic. He tested positive for the disease even though he was well. What about the third one? We all want the contagion to end quickly. What did you think of? Here's what I came up with: pandemic, epidemic, contagion. We all want the pandemic to end quickly. We all want the epidemic to end quickly. Well, contagion we can leave out because it's in the question. His recuperation was amazing. Let's see what you thought of and what I thought of. Recovery, improvement. His recovery was amazing. His improvement was amazing. What about the last one? The isolation of the animals did not help much. These are my answers: quarantine, separation, exclusion. The quarantine of the animals did not help much. The separation of the animals did not help much. The exclusion of the animals did not help much. How did you do in the quiz? Did you do well? Did you think of at least one synonym for the word in bold? If you did, that's very good. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you like improving your vocabulary, do watch a recent video in which I did a vocabulary building exercise with a common flower. You want to know more about it? Click on this here. That's the one. I'm sure you will enjoy it as much as you enjoyed this lesson, or maybe even more. I'll end here and say bye for now.